numbers of deputy ministers from both entities, all my friends. Thanks to invited me at this very important meeting. I didn't know that this is the first time that tourism is a part of Silk Road Forum. First time, always it's difficult to do things, you know. But we have excellent panelists, and I'm sure that they will talk more about their visions and their ideas. We just came with Mariam and with Maya, another excellent colleague from Tourism of Georgia, from our General Assembly. And let me to share with you several points, because again, my deputy Natalia, she's here, and she will talk more about and better what we are doing and how do we see. I will start from this place. The naming, I agree with you, it's a little bit not easy one to talk about that topic, but this place, then you can Google in Google, Hotel Iberia. It was ex-Soviet, very famous one, where all foreigners, and it was only one or two in Tbilisi where guests were coming. And after the war, we had 20 years ago, was crash, of Soviet Union, and after the war in our country, it was full and was under ownership of refugees. Why I'm telling to Google? Because you will see the photos when you put Hotel Iberia Tbilisi. How was this building? And I had an honor, that time I was a Minister of Economy, to inaugurate this hotel. And you can see how tourism can change the life of people and how tourism can change the life of city. Because many, many years, and I would say next 5 years, Radisson was a landmark to attract investors, to make a conference. Everything was happening, important was happening here, because we didn't have any other infrastructure. Thanks to God, and now I will move to our forum, and I was so proud and so happy to see during the opening session that first, that all movie we saw, also it was 80% about tourism. Tourism, as you mentioned, Monica, is more than our identity, it's more than, and of course in numbers, if we see that it's quite big contribution in Georgian economy, and the 80% of video was about tourism. So this is the place to be, to invest, and to do things, because many things are happening in the country. I will talk a little bit about Georgia, and let me give me another 5 minutes to talk about World 4. Okay, so our screen is there. And Georgia is a nice example, and I had the honor to be the Minister of Economy, where was the tourism department, and it changed absolutely many, many things. Not only economy, diplomacy, relationship with other countries. I saw today more than 55 different delegations coming here, not first time, and it's my pleasure and it's an honor. And again, it's a big part of forum. I'm sure that we can do more. I will announce that next year we will host with our Georgian friends very important event, which is World Tourism Day. We are celebrating every year World Tourism Day, and different places. This next year, 2024, will be here in Tbilisi. I want to invite you, all of you, and nothing. I mean, again, Georgia is a place to invest. Georgia is a place to be, to enjoy the beauty of the country. It's very small, very compact, very diverse. If you like any kind of activities you like, you have it here. So I will not talk about promotion of wine and food. You will see and you will try everything during Rio stay. And Silk Road. Again, Silk Road became a landmark, and it contains a lot of things. I mean, and again, we are going to tourism. We just came from China 7 or 6 months ago, and we inaugurated and we opened together with the Minister Hu, Chinese minister, the borders of tourism of China, the tourism. And China is the main market and the main contributor of Georgia for Europe, and I mean, things are starting. And always Silk Road is the symbolic channel or way to connect these countries. Silk Road itself, it's a landmark. Silk Road itself, it's some symbolic region, I would say, where things are happening. The other panelists will talk about political, and they started to talk about politics this morning, but again, tourism is a piece, tourism is connecting people, tourism is putting world together, and I'm so happy and so proud that this very important forum is happening in Georgia. Now, the world in numbers, and I have 1 more minute, I think. Everything is coming back. We are seeing the numbers, 85% of recovery in all regions. In Americas it's the same. In all regions, only in Middle East it's more than 120% because of Qatar World Cup. It changed a little bit numbers, but we are back in 2019. And where UNWTO is giving the recommendation to be, I mean, we are very focused and very keen and very open to collaborate all other friends from all over the world in 2 main things, and the rest it will be mentioned today, which are investments. We are focused a lot on investments. Why? Because after pandemic, the world is changed, tourist sector changed a lot, and now there are a lot of opportunities and possibilities, and again, Georgia is one of the places to invest. And we always recommend to invest in people, because investing in bridges and hotels and infrastructure, it's good, it's very needed, but without people it's impossible. We started, and I will finish my a little bit chaotic speech because I didn't prepare nothing. We just opened, talking about Silk Road again, in Samarkand in Uzbekistan, Silk Road University. UNWTO Silk Road University for Tourism. So all of them, you will be more than welcome to send your colleagues. It's really first place in the region with Riyadh's Academy of Tourism. We have 2 academies for the moment. And third, maybe we are working with Georgian government to create another academy here in Tbilisi, or I don't know where. Again, invest in people, it's very important today. There is a huge opportunity. If someone wants to earn money, this is the place to invest, because there is a huge demand on the tourism knowledge and products, and we are working on it the last 2-3 years, especially in pandemic, and we really recommend to invest in education, and we are very open and we are very collaborative in that case, and we'll be very glad to talk with any countries, any entities, and these are 2 fields where we are concentrate a lot. That's it. Welcome to Georgia. Have a nice day. As you mentioned, Monica, come back again, because during these working sessions you can see all the beauty of our country. And again, tourism is always more funny. These panels will be much alive and much interesting than the other ones. I don't want to, with all respects to other panelists and other VIP guests, I'm sure that you will enjoy, and I want to welcome panelists and to have a nice meeting, and that's it. Enjoy Georgia and come back again and invest here.
Thank you so much, Secretary General Pololikashvili. And in the interest of time, of course, prepared a really nice introduction for everybody, but I will keep it fairly short and sweet. You can read up all the biographies, I'm sure, in the agenda. So I would like to welcome my esteemed panelists onto the stage now, starting with Mariam Krivashvili, Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia. Good to have you with us. We already were on a panel, by the way, at ITB in Berlin, so we already know each other. I would also like to welcome Natalia Bayona. She serves as Executive Director of the United Nations World Tourism Organization. Good to have you with us. I'm very well. I would like to welcome from Eurocontrol, Philippe Merlot, he is the director of the European Green Sky Directorate, and he takes a different path. Good to have you with us. Then I would like to welcome Ceyhun Effendi. He's Fly Dubai's Senior Vice President, Commercial Operations and E-Commerce. And last but not least, I welcome Haitham Fahmy. He's MasterCard's Vice President and Head of Marketing Services, Africa, Middle East, and Eastern Europe. And I recommend you read up all their biographies because they're really fascinating, the things that they have been doing up until now. But there's, of course, also you. You are in the audience, but you're also, to some extent, part of this panel, because we would like to engage you by using Slido. And that means you will need your mobile devices. I've already heard some during some of the speeches. I already see some of you taking pictures. So now you need to make sure that your mobile phones, tablets, what have you, are actually connected to the Wi-Fi we have. Probably they are ready. If not, then I can tell you that the Wi-Fi here is Tbilisi SRF 2023, and the password is Tbilisi 2023, because you need to be in the internet, and then you can actually scan the QR code, or you go in online, and then you're already busy. Right now, I would say that maybe one or two of you are busy, because this is far too even. That's always a sign that, yeah, 3, I was right. Okay, so, because I have one question for you, and this question is basically going on throughout the entire panel: how to navigate the changes in global tourism. And you have a variety of answer possibilities, but you can only go for one answer. It's either prioritize and invest in sustainable initiatives, or diversify tourism offerings, or enhance technological integration, or adapt marketing strategies. What do you think is the most important? And the thing is, you can do it now. You can also just listen to the panelists first and then decide 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the panel. I will definitely keep reminding you of this particular question and remind you that you should give us an answer so that we have a really interesting result towards the end. And now, with that homework that I've given you, I would like to actually focus on my panelists. And I would like to start with an opening round, because tourism faces, as I mentioned, a lot of changes. There is new technologies, consumer behavior certainly has changed quite dramatically after the pandemic. And then there are new destinations, or destinations that are not that well known in every part of the world. And I would really like to know, first of all, how you view that new reality from your perspective. And I would like to start with our host, if you like, Mariam, of course. So which new reality that is currently shaping tourism, in your view, presents the biggest opportunity for the sector?
Thank you very much. Before I jump into replying directly to your question, I would like to also use this opportunity as so-called co-host and extend my sincere gratitude and welcome to all the delegates, all the participants who took their time to come here from your very busy agenda. It really means a lot. We've seen that this year's Silk Road Forum has been an outstanding in terms of attendance from 60 countries to up to 2,000 delegates. We see that engagement of private sector is very high, which gives us, I have a nice background of music.
You're probably supposed to rap your answer.
Right. So I couldn't miss that, and I couldn't miss personally thanking Secretary General for being here with us today, because many of you who follow him on social media or in TV, you know he's everywhere. He's traveling all the time, so it's a very big luxury for our country to have him here, back in his country. So thank you very much. Now back to the question, to wrap it up quickly. I think it's very important for all the nations, including Georgia, and those nations that are very emphasized on tourism and quite dependent, I would say, to ensure that we all trace the trends that are very fast changing, especially after COVID, when we gather under different...
Can we I don't want to be rude, but can we find out
DJ.
where the problem is coming
maybe
from?
you have to be DJ.
Maybe just switch off the speaker. Because it's one thing competing with other sessions, but competing with that kind of noise within the session.
That's also how we cope with challenges. Yes, so now we're back. So yes, of course, it's very important for all the tourist-related countries to focus on the changes, to adapt to those changes and to understand what changes engage. And most important driver for us is data. Collecting data, and earlier today we were talking about understanding what our travelers are looking for, especially after COVID. And COVID has really shaped the mentality in a different way when it comes to international travelers. And a positive side, we see that the length and duration of the stay has increased worldwide, including Georgia. We see that travelers are looking for more unique experiences and very much into the authenticity of the destinations. I think what really brings out Georgia among very, very high competition on world tourism market is that we are a nation that is very authentic, because one of our key drivers is our people, and people are always unique. People which deliver world famous Georgian hospitality. It's gone. So, and back again. So yes, I mean, not to lose the logic that I was trying to follow.
My doesn't even work it. Here I am. Yeah, so that nobody falls asleep, but I don't think we run that risk just yet. Why don't you pick up with what people are looking for, like authenticity and where it's positioned?
Authenticity and where we're positioned is something that go very well along, because a lot of questions when it comes to Georgia arise. Why do people come to Georgia? And not only we are a four-season travel destination, but our tourism product is extremely diversified, and that gives our destination opportunity to reach out to every type of traveler in every part of the world. And we're nation that drives business in a sense of keeping it very diversified. So imagine, as a destination, we're at once trying to increase our awareness as a travel destination. At the same time, we're trying to deliver a message why you should come to Georgia, and at the same time keeping it very diversified. So the way we communicate to our future travelers, our guests, and that's how we like to call our tourists, our guests, is also very diversified. So when we speak to our travelers in the Middle East, it's different. When we speak to those travelers that are in Europe, are very different. So our product helps us to have a very strong base. For seasonality helps us to ensure that we continue extending our world-famous hospitality throughout 4 seasons. And of course, our people in our private sector who extend all the services here needed for, I would say, very shaped requirements and demands of the world travelers.
And of course, it's not a disadvantage to be a destination that isn't, if you want to say it flippantly, old hat, like a lot of destinations, big destinations, well-known destinations, be it in Europe or the United States, whatever, that it's a destination that is still fairly young in today's world, so you can actually turn that into a strength as well. I'm interested to hear Natalia's view. We've just heard so that authenticity and the diversity of what Georgia has to offer makes it a really a great candidate for one of the major tourism hubs. What is it? What do you see as trends that are actually something that we should focus on, not just in Georgia, but from an international perspective?
Thank you so much. It's not working now. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here in my second hometown. The first one is Colombia, and the second one is Georgia by far.
Nice choice.
So what can I say? In the UNWTO, what we feel is that, of course, when it comes to trends and realities, COVID helped us to promote differently our destinations. Today, thanks to technology, rural areas are now booming because, of course, before COVID, the tourism promotion was just focused on the more mature destinations, capital cities. So I totally agree with Mariam, because when we are talking about diversifying, it's not only about having strong experiences in the cities. That's why Secretary General led the Best Tourism Villages program with more than 600 villages all around the world, raising the hand and saying that they wanted to be promoted differently. So this is an example on how we can diversify. Authenticity needs to be here. When it comes to gastronomy, everyone says that the best wine is in their country, of course.
But only one can say the birthplace.
I knew it. I knew it. So that's what I was going to say. But in the case of Georgia, you are the owners, because wine was created here, and no one else can say something different. I have the French here in my left. They have been exporting really well wine, but the history and the tradition comes from Georgia. So that's an example. So of course, wine is everywhere, gastronomy is everywhere, but we need to create new stories, to create new ways of understanding. Because of course, the world is complementary, the world is really small. That's true, because thanks to connectivity, we have millions of people today going from one place to the other. We need really to be authentic. Yesterday I was in Valencia, in Spain. 3 days ago, we were in Uzbekistan. 10 days ago, we were in Saudi Arabia. 15 days ago, we were with the SG in Macau.
Can I have your job?
So I don't know if you want my job, you know. So, and next week, we don't know where we will be. So when we travel in these circumstances where it's very easy to travel, you need, as tourist boards or as ministries of tourism and economy, to really promote unique histories. Why I have to come to Georgia for 24 hours? Of course, I know why. But that's the clue when you're trying to bring people from China, when you want to bring people from Latin America, from those unknown regions. Maybe I'm the only Latin American today here. So how you can make that those foreigners from emerging nationalities become new ambassadors of a brand. So that's basically what we're thinking. First of all, rural development. Second of all, marketing in a very unique way, having a unique added value proposition from authenticity and from real stories. People don't like today to listen to the same stories. I can say that my country is the best one, but Georgia can say that Georgia is the best one, and India can say that the country is the best one. But what is the best? Yeah. So that's another key message. The power of communication today is really crucial if we want to succeed as an economic sector.
I find very interesting when you go, sort of really focus on the narrative side of it, because certainly in the age of social media, and everybody is sort of media and data savvy to some extent anyway, we've sort of outgrown slick messages, and it's interesting to know that you really want, and that's where the authenticity comes in as well. Of course, we really want to know a proper story that entices us to go and see a place, and I'm sure Haitham is going to say a lot about that aspect too. But first, I would like to go to the second biggest wine country in the world. By the way, I'm not that sure that it's that Georgia being the birthplace of wine. In the Bible, it says that he changed water into wine, and I think that was even earlier than that, maybe. But
we don't know where.
We don't know. We don't know where. Very good. Very
Could be
good.
Georgia.
Very good. So, Philippe, air traffic management, air traffic control, that's all about ensuring smooth travel, basically, whether it's business or tourism, safe travel. So what exactly is Eurocontrol? What are you exactly doing in order to ensure safe travel, air travel, in this day and age when more and more people are in the skies? I mean, it's probably sometimes as busy as one of the worst motorways during rush hour. So
Mic is working. Now it's working. Okay. First, thanks to the organizer for the invitation and this opportunity to visit Tbilisi. And in air traffic management, our main challenge today, again, is traffic growth. And the traffic increase after the COVID crisis was incredibly fast. In 23, we will end the year with almost 93% of the 2019 traffic, and it's just an average. I mean, in some parts of Europe, it's much higher, and here in Georgia, for example, the traffic has doubled for many reasons. So we need to squeeze more aircraft in the same airspace. I want to say that tourism is one of the main drivers behind this traffic growth. And it's obvious when you look at the figures of the traditional touristic countries, such as Italy, Spain, Portugal, Georgia now, and they are much above the average. So this is our first challenge, traffic growth. But of course, it's not the only one. We also have a war around at the border of Europe. I mean, the airspace of Russia is closed, Ukraine is closed, and we also have many more military activities, of course. We have military corridors now in the eastern part of our Eurocontrol airspace. We've had to manage big military exercise in June, for example, one that was called the Air Defender. So now we need to manage more traffic in less airspace. So it's becoming really more difficult. And on top of that, you have another challenge that is more, I would say, long-term, but that is probably the biggest challenge ever for aviation, which is called decarbonation. And you know that all the aviation stakeholders have committed to full aviation decarbonation by 2050. To be fully honest, nobody knows yet how to achieve that. So it's, but what is for sure is that air traffic management will have to contribute, and we will need to play our part. And today we still have a 10% inefficiency rate in our trajectory, so we can improve the trajectory by 10% and decrease the fuel used by 10% and the CO2 emission by 10%. So this is an obligation for us, and this is very complex. So we have a unique combination of new challenges that makes our job much more complex and much more difficult. And for that, of course, we are following different avenues for innovation based on digitalization. We are trying to tap the benefits of artificial intelligence, machine learning. Aviation is quite a repetitive activity. I mean, when there is no crisis, meaning it's always the same flights at the same hours. So artificial intelligence is working well. So we are developing new softwares and new air traffic management procedures and new system based on these new technologies in order to increase the capacity. So here I don't want to become too technical. It's not the purpose, it's not a technical meeting, but for example, we are developing new trajectory prediction tools, new conflict detection tools. And with artificial intelligence, we can detect the conflicts, potential conflict, the risk of collision between two aircraft much earlier, and also take remedial action much earlier.
Well, considering that I'm flying back tomorrow, it's very good to know that you can detect that much earlier and make flights there.
No, what is for sure is that safety is mandatory. So the level of safety is a basic assumption. And then we are trying to increase the capacity in order to serve more tourism activities around the different countries.
Yeah, because if people now, more and more people discover the beauty of Georgia, they want to come here. We heard earlier that Georgia isn't a vast, huge country. It's relatively small compared to a lot of other destinations, small in size, rich in culture and offerings. The air above the sky above Georgia will also only have a certain limit in terms of capacity. And I would like to bring Ceyhun in there, because I know that you joined Fly Dubai very early on when it was still in the startup phase, and you sort of co-shaped it. And you now have developed a fairly special relationship with Georgia. But when you listen to also what Philippe says, or also Natalia about, when we heard about decarbonization and all the changes, how do you view the future of aviation, in particular also Fly Dubai? How do you prepare for that?
Thank you very much. Well, I think number one, from our point of view, number one success recipe for tourism is air connectivity. We know this well in Dubai. Dubai being the largest and one of the top tourism destinations globally, uses aviation as its main entry point, because of its geographical position. The great example of the agility of tourism industry in Dubai was what happened during pandemic. In July 2020, Dubai was one of the maybe few countries in the world, few destinations that opened up. We started receiving first tourists first week of July, when a lot of other countries was just closing down. And this was achieved through the strong leadership and vision of the government on how to sort of start bringing back the tourism sector, because Dubai obviously relies a lot on tourism. The infrastructure that Dubai had, with both in aviation, hotel industry, and roads and transport, had that sort of ability to safely transport tourists into Dubai. In this case, I mean, obviously Fly Dubai, when it was introduced, Emirates Airlines was already a well-established global carrier, but they were mostly focusing on the very mature markets, global connectivities they were connecting continents basically. And Fly Dubai was established in 2008 by government of Dubai to start promoting Dubai in more new niche markets. So perfect example would be Georgia in this case, as one of unique experiences that we in Fly Dubai had, because our main aim was to attract tourism into Dubai. That was our main strategy. But over the period of time, we've shifted our focus actually promoting tourism from the Dubai, Middle East into Georgia. And Georgia, I would say, was the first large-scale commitment that we had. We started flights in 2011. And just to give you the numbers, when we started flights, there was around 10,000 passengers annually on the sector. Within a couple of years, we've reached a number of over 500,000 passengers. Yeah. Now, this was part of mainly, obviously, we had commitments, obviously, in advance, but the vision of the government of Georgia and especially the tourism sector was, I have not seen in many other destinations that we operate to. They are sort of very hands-on, and they know exactly what they're doing. So together, our partnership brought in this kind of major development, because Georgia, for the Middle East and Gulf, was practically an unknown destination. The other issue that we solved by this is that Gulf, in general, does not have many long-haul tourism markets. Mostly it was European markets, 5 to 6 hours flight, or in Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, again, 6-7 hours plus. So there was not really any tourism destination, or mass tourism destination with a short sector. And Georgia was the first one that we brought it to the mass scale. Obviously, visa regulation was one of the important factors, because the global south, which is Africa, Middle East, and Asia, has really limited connectivities in terms of people movements are restricted because of the passports, visa regulations. So opening up those sort of access made this possible. And today, I think every major carrier in the Middle East has flights to Georgia. And out of, obviously, in UAE itself, Tbilisi is the top weekend destinations for families. So this is a very unique experience that we had. And today, when we go to other countries, we always give Georgia as an example of, it's like a roadmap. This is what we have to do, and this is what's the next step. So sorry for copying, but obviously, airline and the government together creates that kind of bridge. And so tourism without airlines and the vision of the government can't develop, obviously, can't exist. Yeah. So that's our experience on this.
So, Fly Dubai there, certainly a complete trailblazer when you say other major airlines followed suit now because it works so well. Mariam, just briefly, he just said, Jehoon just said that basically the initial idea was to bring Georgian tourists to Dubai, and it somehow worked the other way around. But Georgian tourists flying to Dubai are also making use of that potential, or do
Very
they rather
marginal fracture, very marginal fracture.
Yeah, okay.
You also, as us, government, would rather have Georgians spending their money in Georgia rather taking it outside. So, of course, domestic tourism is quite an important part of our tourism.
Okay, well, maybe you will have to then work a little bit on your marketing strategy there as
But
well.
no, Georgians are
the
traveling.
other way around. And that's where Hazem actually comes in. And I've seen that you also keep an eye on the polling question, which, by the way, is still up and running for another roughly 20 minutes. So if you haven't participated yet, you still have time to do so. Or if you want to adjust your answer, you can still do so. Because what I've noticed is that Mariam's first intervention made a great impression, because diversity in tourism offerings so far is the key answer, whereas entrance technological integration doesn't have a lot of votes yet, Hazem, from the perspective of a company that is actually a leading global payment company, a company that does a lot of data research. Would you agree with that?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. So, I mean, I think I want to go one step beyond that. Actually, if you see the 4 answers on there, the common denominator that drives implementation and strategy through all is data, right? Data will drive marketing strategy, it will drive policy, it will drive decisions on technology. And that's what we firmly believe at the company. Actually, that's where we start. We process over 100 billion transactions a year. And at an aggregated level, we're able to see at a macro level, anonymized level, key trends, which we're able to actually help and bring to the table. And I think this has been absolutely key to help the Georgian government in a lot of ways to be able to understand what tourism sustainable products to bring to the table. What corridors should we be focusing on? But going back to your question, I think, you know, it's post-COVID, we've seen a dramatic shift, and not just in the type of tourism that's happening, but the mindset of tourists, who are getting recommendations from their friends, right? So what does that mean from a technology perspective? It means that you need to be real time on social media. You need to be monitoring your demographics in a key basis and actually understanding how to actually engage with them. So figuring that part out, I think, is really, really critical. Now, using our Tourism Insights platform, which I think has been absolutely instrumental to help over 30 countries globally understand insights like, who are these consumers searching for my country? What are they spending on? What could we predict they could be spending on? How can we make a sustainable product fit their lifestyle? And that's what really, really drives strategy. So I think this is where we have to start, and we also end, because at the very end of being able to develop the marketing strategy, you need to be able to measure and understand what works and what doesn't. And so we take that really, really strongly to heart. Most recently, actually right after the pandemic, almost a year and a half ago now, we launched the Global Tourism Innovation Hub, which has been able to help over 35 countries really figure out how to develop sustainable products in the tourism space, how to attract the new types of consumers. You know, for example, in Korea, they are looking into owning the niche of only attracting, or not only, but predominantly targeting travelers with pets. And they've been able to unlock that in an Asia-Pacific context. And we'll talk about this later when it comes to the sustainability element. We've been able to help the government and the tourism board of Costa Rica and the sustainability space, because they actually realize that they get a lot of inflows from the US, right? And a lot of US consumers have sustainability on top of the mind. So how do you actually help them and really engage them. So we developed something actually quite unique where there was a biodegradable prepaid card that you get as soon as you arrive into the country. You can load it with the local currency, and you'll be able to spend it as you like, but it also helps you keep track of your carbon footprint per transaction. Linked to your app, you can also use it to discover sustainable products and attractions that are actually free, and you can use it to donate to extinct species and all kinds of different programs. So that's how, again, it all starts with data. And that's the part that we have to sort of double down on. And it really just drives strategy end to end.
Can I just do a follow-up question straight away? Because, I mean, you have all this data, which obviously then leads to some understanding of certain behavior, certain needs of consumers. And you share that data with partners who then come up with strategies.
Yep.
Do we know if those strategies then are successful?
Absolutely. So one of the key, and this is an excellent question, because there's 3 problems you could have. You can have the data and not use it. You can have the data and not being able to use it successfully, but only less than 10% are able to use it successfully. So what we bring to the table are best practices in terms of how do you actually engage consumers, right? When you actually have this data, what kind of personas do you have to develop? Segmentation models that predict, for example, who's most likely to be a sustainable type consumer, who's most likely to spend next, and then action those using our marketing services capability within data and services, and also through the Tourism Innovation Hub, develop end-to-end marketing campaigns that are measurable with the extreme discipline, and I can't emphasize this enough, of the ability to continuously test, learn, understand what works and what doesn't. And the airline space, this is brilliantly, because they need to understand a wide range of different consumers. So there has to be that discipline, and I think this is where we come in with a range of different offerings. We across multiple touch points. So when you get into the planning stage, we have partnerships with Booking.com, to help you discover a priceless experience in Georgia. When you get to the airport, there's a executive lounge access. When you're going into the plane, Wi-Fi access. And I think the key strategy we figured out is because a lot of these are sort of fragmented. The key threshold and the key UX experience that keeps it all together actually from the bank side, surprisingly. And if we're able to integrate these experiences and really engage consumers through the banking apps, which have a high usage, especially in Georgia, consumers are always going to be tapping in, and they're going to be discovering products there. And that's how we can engage the tourists.
This is also something that one has to understand, and we've been talking about this earlier, Mariam, also about the strategies for various destinations, different places that you hope you'll attract to come to Georgia, that there isn't a blueprint. And when you hear, for example, about offering certain services through a banking app, there are maybe countries where people don't use that app that often or don't feel that comfortable, so you will have to find a different strategy. So how do you balance the input you have thanks to access to data and other input, actually, where do you get it from in order to then say, this is our strategy? Because so far, Georgia has really been amazingly successful with its tourism strategy in a relatively very short period of time. So what is it that you focus on? And how do you decide which is right for who?
I think it's very important that we understand how tourism is shaped and how tourism is properly, and I would say successfully, promoted. First, you need to understand what is your product. And when we speak about diversification, when we speak about offerings that every country has. So that is one, understanding your identity as tourism destination. Now, second, and very important, is understanding who your guests, your travelers are. Then how do we understand the habits, the travel trends, the desires, new approaches within the travel? It's also very diversified. So every country, and we've been very strong and we've invested heavily in understanding our travelers, our future travelers, by using different data. One, it's a great example that has been shared now from MasterCard. We've been having amazing partnership to go into more depth of analyzing data of international travelers who come to Georgia to understand also, and that has been very interesting input for our private sector, because generally every quarter we do very, let's say, massive presentations where we go into depth why they are coming, what is the average duration of the stay, which are the destinations within the destinations where travelers tend to go, which are the travel products where they spend the most. So these trends are changing, and it is super important that government indicates and also gives this data to private sector, because very often the data that we have might not be easily accessible to private sector. So this is also important to be equally aware in a sense, when it comes to us, government, at the same time, along with private sector who actually drives business. Second is to always have information, always gather data on outbound traffic, right? So those who are maybe not been to Georgia, but that's our target, we need them to travel to Georgia. So we need to measure, we need to understand. For instance, we take Germany as a great example. We declare that Germany is on top of our strategic market, for instance, 3 years ago.
I'm here.
Right, so thank you very much. So what have we done as destination to ensure that now Germany stands out as one of the fastest growing destinations when it comes to inbound to Georgia? One, we started to promote Georgia. How we started to promote Georgia, we understood what German travelers are looking for. What are the target segments? Are we targeting families? Are we targeting youth? Are we targeting cultural travelers, adventure travelers, or maybe all of them, right? Then we shaped the content according to the needs of every category of the traveler. And then we very precisely chose the communication platforms. Would it be digital? Would it be print? And what are the narrative that we are delivering out there to ensure that efficiency of every marketing campaign is at highest level? That's second. Third is connectivity. And I think everyone here agrees, especially after COVID-19, that without connectivity, tourism has no way to go. And Germany is again a really good example that 3 years ago, declaration of government saying that we want more travelers from Germany, marketing activities were boosted to increase awareness of Georgia, increase demand towards Georgia, and the same day we started negotiations with airlines, German airlines, also local airlines. Today, the result after 2 years and a half we have is Georgia is one of the fastest growing outbound market from Germany. So, and our private sector is also more emphasized to attract travelers. We have 5 airlines operating from 7 cities from Germany, which is the success story that Georgia is very proud of, and you would not get another example within the region having that vast of connectivity from Germany. And third, we deliver right messages. Last year we met in Berlin, and it was my country's great success that Georgia won the bid to be a host country on world's biggest travel show, ITB Berlin, that not only gave us exposure on local German market, that not only gave opportunity to our local travel trade to connect more locally, but it gave us international presence and awareness, yes? And we came prepared. We came with our big stand, which delivered the whole message, but we also had a booth in Adventure Tourism Hall. Why? Because we know that German travelers are very much into adventure. So I think where I'm trying to lead is that it is extremely important to know the data, to collect data and to analyze it properly. We have extremely good partnerships with airlines. Ceyhun here brought, I think, very valuable examples, and that's also a success story, how we go hand in hand. Sometimes we have private sector dictating us, you know, leading us in a way because private sector sense markets maybe earlier than we do. So it's important to understand that we have the same goal. We want to see every airline landing in Georgia with full cabin. It means that flight came in with full aircraft of tourists, which then be distributed into hotels, restaurants, tour guides, transportations, and most importantly, I would agree with Natalia, our role here is to ensure that this is fairly distributed within the country so that we don't have accumulated travelers only in the central parts of the country, but we spread it throughout the regions, villages, to ensure that we deliver the beauty of tourism, which is ensuring that it creates more jobs, it drives more money into the country, and of course, we see more job opportunities created for our own people throughout the country.
And I would like to pick up with Natalia first, but I want to do something old-fashioned, because when I listen to this, I mean, tourism is, with all the new technology, with data, with everything that you have to take into consideration in order to actually understand a market and a certain generation, you know, because every market, of course, then is again subdivided in different generations, which again want different things. It's rocket science to some extent. It really is a handful. I would like to have a show of hands. Who of you is actually working in or working with the tourism industry?
Okay.
Not just in Georgia, in general. Who of you actually is with the tourism industry? Okay, so we have some guests here who are just interested in tourism in general. And then maybe just a second show of hands. Who of you is using data extensively in order to enhance their tourism business? Okay, that's about half of everyone who is here, which would explain also the results so far in our survey, which, by the way, will close in 2 minutes. So if you haven't answered the question yet, do it now or change whatever you have said. And Natalia, as the United World Trade, thankfully not, World Tourism Organization, you obviously also have to think of the buzzword sustainability, and that's where I would also like to include Jay Hoon and Philippe for this last round, because tourism, traveling, air travel, we all know that is maybe not the most sustainable way of travel. At the same time, and we've heard that this morning in the opening ceremony, of course, connecting humans, meeting each other, getting to know each other's ways is so important for the world as a whole. You know, it can build bridges. Tourism is very, very important. So how do you balance this, basically trying to achieve the SDGs? I know that we're not on track when it comes to that. What can you do to support tourism and the SDGs?
Oh, what a question. But before, I wanted to jump into something that I am really passionate, that is innovation and technology, and then, of course, I'll talk about SDGs, but our colleague from MasterCard and Mariam were talking about something that we are passionate in the UNWTO. When it comes to technology, that's another challenge that we have inside the sector. I don't know if you know, but tourism is composed or created by 80% of SMEs, or in other words, the touristic chain works properly thanks to the small and medium enterprises. We are a sector of SMEs. Nonetheless, 50% of SMEs working in tourism invest less than $5,000 in digital marketing. So when we are talking about digitalization, it's not only about deep technologies, artificial intelligence, of course, we love them, but it's as well, that's why we partnered with MasterCard and we launched a program that is called the Digital Futures Program to give access to new technologies for free to the SMEs. Because if we don't work properly to support the backbone of the tourism sector, we won't be sustainable. So now let's jump into the SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goals, of course, are the UN agenda and is part of the mandate that all the UN member states have in order to assure a sustainable future. But most of the times, people think that sustainability is only about climate change. And unfortunately, sustainability is not about air transport. Sustainability is about thinking on next generations and what we can do for them. And here, tourism has a lot to say. Mm-hmm. Tourism is the top employer of youth. Tourism is the top employer of women. So here we have two strong mandates. But I come back with what I said at the beginning. 50% of youth working in tourism only have secondary education. So we cannot get the sustainable development goals if we don't invest in people, as the Secretary General was mentioning before. Because if we don't invest in the people, if we don't invest in the youth working in tourism, we won't have added value jobs. If we don't have added value jobs, salaries won't grow. And at the end of the day, we will have incredible buildings, but not with the most important thing, that is the proper workforce that is prepared to bring and to serve the millions of tourists that are coming to different sectors. Then when it comes to hotels and investments, we have a collaboration with the Financial Times. 66% of investments in the tourism sector goes to hotel infrastructure. That's incredible. But as well is our question today. Don't we think that we need to diversify investments? 66% goes only to hotels. And from all the hotels in the world, just 20% of them have a climate action strategy. So are we investing in the right buildings? Are we committed with the right way of developing? So it's not only about the poor airlines, of course. To be honest with you, I love them. It's the only way transportation. Maybe, you know, we can go into the metaverse, or maybe we can create robots or something that can help us to communicate better. But today, the best way to go from one place to the other is through an airplane or through a train. So I don't have nothing against. We have only generosity, and we work really well with ICAO, with our UN agency on innovation as well, because of course we know that decarbonization is one of the strongest challenges in transport. Nonetheless, I feel that there are some other challenges that are huge. Education is a strong one. Diversifying investments is another one. Yeah. Investing in the right technologies in the small and medium enterprises are other part of the challenges, you know.
You mentioned something very very important, and perhaps that is something just briefly hand over to Philippe as well. It's and that's the one of the SDGs also, of course, about, you know, sort of equal right of education and access to work, and that is one thing, investing in the young people, but then they also need to find it attractive to go and work, for example, in the hospitality sector or in the tourism sector, or when I look at Eurocontrol, to become an air traffic controller. Is that something? Are you worried about the future? Are enough people thinking this is great, I want to do it, or will everybody be replaced by AI soon anyway?
Okay. No, I'm not worried. I'm convinced that the future of air traffic is bright, especially due to tourism. I think we should not oppose tourism and sustainability. We have a major reality in front of us. People want to go to other countries to visit. They want more tourism. And so we need to serve our citizens and to enable that. And I also believe that tourism is very good for better knowledge between people and the development of economical links and social equality, and so the strong demand for tourism is a reality, and we need to cope with that. And of course, we need to find other ways to make it more sustainable, and this is what we are trying to achieve. It was mentioned that connectivity is one of the main drivers also for tourism. This is what we are trying to propose in Eurocontrol. We are trying to enable more connectivity, and so as soon as the bottleneck is emerging, we are trying to solve it, and apparently it works well, because for the moment we have rather good feedback on our services. Another idea that I had listening to the discussion, and by the way, I realized that tourism is really also a technical field, yes, and out of my specialty, the importance of peace. And the tourism is only possible, and this was mention this one of the main topics in the Prime Minister's speeches tomorrow. I mean, peace is a prerequisite for tourism. And for example, just during the summer, the tourism to Israel was very strong, very active, and of course now it has stopped. So yes, that's another very important dimension as well.
Yeah. Let's just agree, peace is important, full stop, all the time, everywhere. I'm absolutely heartbroken to see that we only have 2 minutes, 45 seconds left, and the clock is running quickly. So, Ceyhun and Haysam, I've sort of not given you enough time. Ceyhun, Fly Dubai, super successful. When you listen to all the use of data, when you listen to the importance of SDGs or the fact to make flying more sustainable, pick one of those topics and tell us what Fly Dubai is aiming to do.
Thank you. Well, obviously, tourism is not going anywhere. This is a natural behavior of human beings. They want to explore new places. Although on the economy, development has a big impact on, because usually people would want to spend on more important things than tourism. So tourism would come at the end of the spectrums. But if you look at the emerging economies like development, I mean, largest population countries like China and India, their only fraction of their population is still traveling on tourism. So as their economies are growing, and for example, India itself have a huge jump. So you're going to see more people, much more people traveling for tourism. So obviously, how can sustainability be measured when you have ocean of new, young generation coming into this industry, both working and traveling as well? Obviously, technology is going to be number one thing. You still need connectivity to go to places. Obviously, airlines are always blamed as being that sort of a... They play the main role of connecting people, but at the same time, the impact on with the fuel consumption, etc. But when you see the new engines and the new aircrafts that are coming into equation, for example, Fly Dubai's main fleet consists of 737 MAX aircrafts. We have more than 150 aircrafts on order. And at least these models are 20 plus more savings on fuel burn. So this is our commitment in terms of making sure that it's happening. Another thing is that shorter destinations would become more. So for example, you'll have a lot of flights, let's say, coming from Europe to Asia. These are 7-8 hour plus flights, and weather has to do with this because, for example, where do you go in winter? So Dubai, for example, is an important destination, but a lot of people opt to go really long distances to explore other places. Big question on the sustainability there. So I would assume short distances would make up this, because mass tourism is always around shorter flights. Anything within 3 to 4 hours. So we have to be realistic when we talk about growing tourism. The distance is probably the major factor, how big that traffic would be in that area. And obviously data and technology, especially at the airports. For example, today we have a lot of obviously wastage of people going through numerous checks, burning electricity, other things. Dubai airport is going into fast changes. Within a couple of years, you would see people not touching anybody or anything, just passing through. I mean, these are cameras installed today that you actually can just scan, eye scan, and then it goes through all the formalities in terms of both check-in, boarding, immigration, security, all those areas. So again, technology would play the major part to reduce the wastage, obviously, of space, electricity, fuel, etc. So that's our sort of game plan.
That sounds very upbeat. And I don't want to spoil the mood. Time is up, but I would like to bring in Haysam one last time with a short answer if possible, and then we look at the results of our polling question. Because just what Ceyhun said, Haysam, about, you think about these big markets, I mean, China, India, especially now also, where there is a vast population only just beginning to explore the rest of the world. And then you listen to what Philippe said and what he's doing, trying to keep the air space safe. And you look at a destination like Georgia, really gearing up to welcoming people, not just in Tbilisi, but also to diversify throughout the country. And of course, the role of the SDGs, which is not just about climate, but actually giving people equal opportunities, which goes both ways. how can data help? Can data get it all sorted for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're covering also financial inclusion in there, especially with some of these markets who are traveling for the first time in large quantities. Look, I think in this space, look, we made a commitment, I think 5 years ago, to get 500 million people financially included into the digital economy, to the payments economy. We've taken that up another level, another 5 years. We're aiming to get to 1 billion. A billion people in 5 years. So that includes 50 million small, medium enterprises, 25 million women entrepreneurs. That cannot be done without the tourism sector playing a vital role, which means we have to completely change and adjust. In addition, you're seeing some quite insane stats, which I'll actually read to you now, about the new kind of consumer, right? So, and this is very hitting on the spot of sustainability. So 81% of global travelers confirm sustainable travel is important. 71% of travelers want to make an effort in 2023 to travel more sustainable. 66% travelers are willing to pay extra to lower their travel carbon footprint. And 18% are willing to pay for a rental car that's electric. So we made this commitment, and then you have a brand new consumer, and then you have the financially excluded. So what we're doing in this space is using our unique ability to be at the very center of this ecosystem, private sector, public sector, merchants, getting them all together, looking again at the data, at the insight to say, hey, how can we co-create products together that will help every single party? And I think that's the unique part that we're able to really bring using the global tourism innovation hub. And I think financial literacy and education, especially when you're talking about markets that are new to travel or expanding travel like China and India, but just being able to be that connector and using data as a weapon to really just advise and say, hey, what if we co-develop this thing together? And I think that's so unique because I think there's a lot of components that work in silos. And I think bringing everyone to the table to just agree on a strategy where airlines, government, and sub, SMEs can come together is just really priceless.
Let's take a quick look. And I have to state that not much has changed. Diversity to navigate the changes in global tourism, diversity tourism offerings, actually, that is still taking the lead. Prioritizing investment in sustainable initiatives also was strong before, and the rest sort of falls in. A brief nod or head shake. Are you more or less happy with that result?
The product, definitely. Everything
Number one.
Everything ends and starts with the product, right? We learned that from Apple, from the greats, and I think George is just doing fantastic because we were just talking earlier. It's able to offer different things to different people and really personalize that experience, which is really unique.
Right. Well, then a big thank you. And Philippe, I think it was wonderful to have somebody from Eurocontrol here because you're aware that the skies are getting fuller. Tourism is going to pick up big time, left, right, and center. And I'm very, very happy that you have great staff and great technology to deal with it all. Thank you so very much. Mariam, Natalia, Philippe, Ceyhun, Haitham. I would have loved to chat longer, but time is up. I know that there's a coffee break, and I know that there are other parallel sessions. Feel free to join them if you want to. Thank you so very much for being here.